Good evening, YouTube. I wanted to jump on and discuss a matter I really wasn't going to discuss because I didn't want to feel like I'm bringing attention to someone's negative behavior. But it's really popular right now. It's streaming, and I just wanted to give a review and also my unsolicited opinion. I wanted to discuss the recent Netflix drop, The Crash, that is discussing the car wreck with Mackenzie Trillo and her boyfriend at the time, Dominic Russo, and his best friend, Davion Flanagan. Apologies. So they live in Strongsville, Ohio. From what I've read, it sounds like a very prominent area. There's a lot of affluent families, and Mackenzie has grown up very entitled and very spoiled. So, not making any excuses at all for her behavior or what she's done, but just to preface it, her mindset and just to lay some context regarding her character. Dominic was a few years older than Mackenzie, but from all accounts that I've read, which I watch Murder or listen to Murder in America, I watched the Netflix documentary, and I'm going to take my glasses off just because of the glare. I watched the Netflix documentary, The Crash, and then I also watched the Mean Girls murder. I think, yeah, Mean Girl Murders. It's a show that shows different murder cases that streams on Hulu, which I suggest watching multiple series because Netflix really left out a lot of information. So I had one opinion and it definitely skewed once I saw the other two, or when I listened to the other podcasts and then I watched the episode. But back to the story. One night, they were driving home after a party. It was about 5 a.m. and Mackenzie crashes their car, and she is the only one who survives the accident. Everyone is believing that this is a tragic accident, a terrible mistake. It's so sad, which it is. It's so sad. And this poor girl has accidentally killed her boyfriend. Even Dominic's family had come to support Mackenzie and take care of her and check on her because Mackenzie did survive the crash, but she was severely injured. She has broken her thigh bone. They said she completely broke all the way through the bone, her arm bone, and she broke her neck in two spots. So she was in the hospital for a while and she had a long recovery. But as time goes on, we come to find out as the documentary proceeds, people will start discussing Mackenzie's personality, and you come to find out that she's the typical high school mean girl, the one with her band that follow her around, and her friend Rosie is a trip on this documentary. I am just Rosie the influencer. Um, but you come to find out she's a mean girl and she's also very controlling in her and Dom's relationship. And the evidence finally comes to surface and Mackenzie is arrested. Well, while everything was being investigated, they did take her blood tox level at the hospital and she had mushrooms on her person, but she didn't test positive for anything that's mind altering that would have caused the car crash. And then the investigators also thought maybe she was tired, but when they went back and studied the black box from the car, you realize that there was no attempt to brake. It was 100% acceleration before they hit the wall, and she was going over 100 miles per hour. And some additional evidence was found when Dom's mom went to clean out his home after his passing, and she found some very disturbing text messages between Mackenzie and Dom, and it just shows a cycle of verbal abuse and some cheating and him appearing that he wants to break up with her. But Mackenzie, again, she's that mean girl, and she's got this whole persona. So she's got the man, she's got the clique, she's got the look, she's got the clothes, which that's another layer to this case, is that Dom was really good with money, and from all accounts, he was trading Bitcoin. So he was pretty much, or no, he was funding her lifestyle. So I'm sure a lot of that played into, you're not going to leave me because you fund my lifestyle. So there's some text message exchanges that, and one particular does say something about a fight while driving and someone grabbing the steering wheel and the possibility that there could have been a car accident. But we get further down the road and we find out more and more and more. And when I tell you, the parents and Mackenzie, they aren't good at PR. Let's just put it that way, because she's posted a video a few days before her arrest. It was on Halloween, and they were dressed up as corpses. Now, her reasoning was that they were dressed up as something that they follow, or an entertainment group or something like that. But personally, to me, I think it's kind of tone deaf. After everything that's happened, maybe pick something else. So that's just my input on that. The other part, or the other instance that kind of had me looking like, I don't know. She says that there was no intent to hurt them or harm them or do anything. But at the same time, she says she doesn't remember anything that happened during the car crash. So I go back and forth I did go back and forth. I'm like, maybe she did have an emergency and she couldn't remember, but she wasn't drunk, she wasn't high. And her mother later in trial tries to present the theory that she has POTS disorder, which is a issue with your blood pressure, and it does cause issues with fainting. But again, then, not to judge anyone what you can and physically aren't able to do, but why are you driving if you know that there's a probability that you could lose consciousness and not, or possibly hurt yourself or others? So she goes to trial, and they present all the evidence, the toxicology report, the black box report, all the things that makes it appear that Mackenzie did cause this accident on purpose. Now, the reason why, I don't think we'll ever really get a true reason, because she, again, keeps saying she had no malicious intent when it happened, but then she's saying she doesn't remember, and they're using every excuse in the book to prove her innocence. I personally, after watching all the 2 episodes and listening to the podcast, just from those parts, I think that she is guilty. I think that she did this intentionally. I think she was angry that he wanted to break up with her and that she was going to lose the lifestyle that she had. And she seems to have viewed Dom as a possession, not as just her boyfriend. And if she couldn't have him, no one else was going to have him. And that poor Davion was just a casualty of just being in the car, which that's another sad part. He almost didn't get in the car, but he ended up changing his mind last minute and ended up riding with them. Another thing that really kind of irked me about the Netflix documentary that they left out is Mackenzie did a test run. So again, they studied the black box after the car accident, and they find out that she was going down the same path at the same time, and it's an industrial parkway, so it's not really somewhere you just like, oh, let me go drive this way. It was not like convenient for her to go that way. So was it a test run? I think I would lean more towards that. Another thing, about the Netflix documentary. And I don't know, as far as pre-production, what they tell people to wear, what to do, how to present, but her dad wore a shirt that says boom. And why would you do that? Read the room. I was just, yeah, I had to take a second look. I'm like, looks like it says, but nope, it says boom. I'm reading it right. The other takeaway from it is that Mackenzie obviously has been told or has been raised in a way that she feels she doesn't have to take responsibility or accountability for things. And that is very apparent by the way her parents talk about how they never really had to, and I'm using a loose quote when I say this, they never had to really discipline her because she was an easy child. But contrary to that, she has a history of being rude and just being nasty and bullying not just her peers, but also adults. They talk about one time she was suspended towards the end of the school year and her father not making her, or her father himself, saying he didn't feel the need for her to take accountability for what happened, just blowing it off. So for context, we definitely know where she gets this entitlement from. During the trial, when we're watching everyone give impact statements or to speak to the judge, about Mackenzie's character, her mom goes into just talking about Mackenzie and how awesome she is and how great she is and that they'll miss Dom. And the judge rightfully corrected the mom and asked her, well, what about Davion? And her mom says, well, I didn't know him that well. So that part really took me back because your daughter is responsible for the reason why his parents will never see him again. And all you can say or fix your mouth to say is that you didn't know him that well. So you don't reserve any type of condolences, or you have nothing to say or any expressions of apologies to give to this poor man's family that is racking their brain that how their son got into a car and it resulted in the ending of his life. And that is all this is your moment to express your remorse and apologize and to take accountability for why we're here, because ultimately they are there because your daughter's lack of discipline. It was just, but the icing on the cake for me was because in the Crash documentary on Netflix, they do interview Mackenzie in person in prison. And again, it's the zero accountability. It's I think I had a POTS emergency and she thinks she passed out. Or the going back to, I don't remember anything. It wasn't my intent to hurt Dom or Davion. And at the end of the interview, you see her look over and she pretty much is asking for the okay or the green light. And you realize she's talking to her lawyer. So this interview is not an interview of contrition or anything like that. This is an interview trying to work on an appeal, which her family later does try to do an appeal. And it's turned down from the judge. And the only credence I will give to her family's concerns are, I don't feel that she had a good defense from what I saw. But again, editing, don't see the trial from beginning to end. But I do wonder if maybe some evidence was manipulated, watching some conversation and then pictures of text messages. Again, I definitely think she's guilty. I definitely think she did it. But at the same time, if you're presenting a case, I feel that all evidence should be presented so that it doesn't give the defense a chance to come back and say that something was not presented by the prosecution. And it ends, she is serving 15 years to life. Again, she did try to appeal her conviction, but as of now, it is upheld. And the judge did say that she does not believe that Mackenzie will be out in 15 years. And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. There has been no genuine expressions of remorse from Mackenzie or her parents. It's just a tragedy all around because 3 people's lives were ruined and it didn't have to be. And it's just sad because in her mind, she thought that she was entitled to take this man away from his family and his friends because she couldn't have him and she didn't want anyone else to have him. And that was how small her life was, is that it was only completely surrounded around one person, and she couldn't have that. She was not going to be dumped. And again, sorry to keep going on about the enablers. Even her friends were enabling. The Rosie girl, that's the influencer, she did not want to talk to the police. That is the one person I think that might know more than we know, obviously. And I feel that there's definitely some secrets that I wonder if, like, as time goes on, will we eventually become privy to. But she completely shut down the police. She still has not spoken to the police till this day. So that's another dig or deep dive I wish somebody would go into, and we'd find out if she like knows something or if the bones are, buried there. But anyway, like I said, it was a good watch in the sense that the off factor of it, that you can't believe that someone would drive into a brick wall at 100 plus miles an hour because your boyfriend's breaking up with you. So the off factor of it, but again, just tragic. And I didn't want to give her the spotlight, but I did want to just, because, like I said, voice my unsolicited opinion. So have a good night and happy Tuesday. Bye.